Another historic moment at this university. Since the start of the millennium, this university has been remarkably transformed. It's amazing. If you go across campus, Phil Nicholas, Senator Nicholas is here with us today. It's got to be over $1 billion. It's closing $1.5 billion. Some estimates, Phil, by now it's moving toward $2 billion of investments in higher education. Amazing buildings, the Hathaway Scholarship Program, the list goes on. It has been a partnership with the state of Wyoming and with private philanthropy, with the creation of matching funds and just outright investments by the state that have changed our university. Through the years, there have been great investments in student athletes. A real commitment began back in 1998 with the creation of the Rochelle Athletic Center. And now the AA project that is underway, you start looking at all the facilities around with athletics. Student athletes have had an amazing opportunity to advance their careers and to really get launched here. And Larry, we couldn't be more proud of the fact that we're actually sitting out here in the Marion H. Rochelle Gateway is a Mountain West Conference basketball trophy. On the hills, of this success, this university is saying, we are not slowing down. We're going to build upon this success and we're going to take things to an incredible new level. And today we're here to announce to you an amazing project. $44 million in scope, a high altitude performance center, which is going to be in addition to the Rochelle Athletic Center. We're here to explain to you the amazing partnership between the state of Wyoming, led by Senator Nicholas, Governor Meade, Kermit Brown, Speaker of the House, in partnership with our head football coach and led by our head football coach, who has an exciting vision for how we're going to take our student athletes to even a greater level of competition. Coach Bohl, we couldn't be happier to have you here leading our way. Coach Bohl.
Thank you. This is a little bit different for me than our normal press conference, guys, but it really is an exciting day. I want to say thanks for some other members who are here. President McGinnity, I know President was hired right before I was hired, and appreciate his leadership with our university. He's done an extraordinary job, and President and I share a likeness and our fondness not only for our barber, but also for the love of the New England Patriots and how the Patriots have developed, and appreciate President McGinnity's leadership and being here today. Also, Tom Berman, boy, what a special man. You know, to make bold steps, that good is just not good enough. And his leadership and his ability to listen to coaches and provide leadership and provide the tools for us to move forward, his competitive nature. And so I want to say thanks so much to Tom Berman, and it has been a joy for me to work for Tom for a little over a year. Along with that, Ben Blaylock. Ben and I have struck up a close friendship and a passion for many things. And the short amount of time, you'll hear from Ben here in a little bit. Two guys that have become close friends of mine, Joe Ligursky and Larry Shyatt. You know, and that's a real testament to Tom Berman. The 6 athletic departments I have been a part of, and these two guys will probably attest to, many times coaches in an ego-driven profession bump heads, and they try to blow each other's candle out so theirs shines brighter. Well, that's not the case here. These men are great coaches, and as I said before, that's a testament to Tom's leadership, being able to put together not only the men's basketball coach and the women's basketball coach, who have enjoyed great national recognition, both of them in their own right, but not only those two coaches, but all the coaches in our department. And Joe has become a close confidant. I don't know if there's anybody on our coaching staff who understands the state of Wyoming better, understands competitive athletics. Certainly the accomplishment of the championship and the women's NIT sends a great deal of pride all across our state. And you know, the short amount of time that I have been here, I had countless conversations with Joe. about the role of athletics here and how to achieve greatness, and he's been a great friend. And then also Larry Shyatt, what's been accomplished today, not only with our women's team breaking a ceiling several years ago, but what the men did this year was truly phenomenal. You're looking at a guy who, I played a couple years of high school basketball, and not too doggone long. I wasn't athletic enough, and I don't really understand basketball, but I understand and recognize greatness. That basketball team that we had, and how those men came together and overcame all the adversity with mononucleosis and ups and downs, and to be able to accomplish greatness. And for me to watch those guys, not only watch them out there in the games, but to be able to go over and watch them practice and how they handle themselves. That doesn't happen by chance. That does not happen by chance. And what it does, Larry and Joe, it spurs us on to greatness. There's greatness in this university. There's greatness in this football program, and I can't be more excited. I'm truly convinced that today's announcement is going to have a major impact on all Cowboy athletics. I can tell you this with strong conviction, that today's announcement will have a redefining moment in Cowboy football. And so beyond making an announcement and beyond talking about a building, because those things happen time and time again, this is about a story. This is about a journey. This is about a moment that each person that sits in this room, or those that are viewing online or through the media, will remember. And it started a little over a year ago. I met in a clandestine spot with Tom Berman and Randy Wilniak. And we talked about Cowboy football. And I had some pretty pinpointed questions on where they saw our program going. And it was going to be imperative that their vision aligned with the vision I was going to have. And we were in lockstep that Cowboy football needed to return back to national prominence, and we needed to be rebranded to Cowboy Tough Football. And this started many, many years ago for me as a young assistant coach. I was a young assistant coach at the University of Nebraska, and our athletic director, Bob Devaney, was really impactful for me. Gene Huey, another player, was a coach on our staff. And many of these guys talked about the greatness of Cowboy football. And that left an indelible impression on me. You know, times change, but people don't. Times change, but people don't. To return back to the greatness, we needed to return back to our roots, what Cowboy Tough really is. And that was the first thing that Tom talked about. Coach, we need to play Cowboy Tough football. What does that mean? What does that mean? That's more than a lettering on a t-shirt. That's more than a slogan. It's a mantra. And so how do you get your arms around what Cowboy Tough means? And it's been my experience through the years that any great football program is going to reflect the values and the fabric of the people that are in our state. As you travel around Wyoming, what are we made of? We're a modest people. We don't pound our chest. There's greatness out there. We don't brag about it. We're resilient. We're resourceful. We're determined. We will get it done. And so, in the short time I've been here, it became really apparent to me there's a thirst for greatness here. We have meandered around way too long on just being average. Good is not good enough. That was witnessed by the pride of people in our state when our basketball team hoisted that trophy over their head. Big time stuff. And, it was interesting. Several months ago, a friend of mine, who's now passed, and I got to spend quite a bit of time with Nick in a short amount of time. He had a desire to build a better Wyoming, to build greatness in this state. This is another step to building greatness. And I appreciate the legacy of McMurray. Matter of fact, we stand in this hall named after Mick and Susie and his leadership. So as we started this venture, we knew we needed to rebrand Cowboy football. Well, beyond a slogan on a t-shirt, beyond saying, oh yeah, we're going to be tough, we had to figure out a way to do it. First of all, that started with not so much a building, but the people inside that building. Not so much all the different uniforms, but the man in that uniform. And so as a coaching staff, we embarked on building what's called the Wyoming profile. That's been distributed here. Because I want to make real clear, Tom and I sat down and talked. Everybody builds buildings, okay? People build buildings all the time. It's about building the student athletes in this building and giving them the resources to be great. And so we set about building a Wyoming profile, and how that came about, not only talking with those coaches that I knew, we set out and we visited with former players like Randy Wilniak. Had long conversations about Randy. Randy, when you were great, I know everybody was talking about throwing the ball around, and he kind of looked and goes, yeah, we were tough. We were tough, and we were determined. We had tough guys. We had guys that wanted to be in that locker room. We had guys that played for the University of Wyoming instead of at the University of Wyoming. And then we ventured down to the Twin Cities and talked to a young man named Marcus Harris, who many of you know. The greatness of Marcus and what he did on the gridiron out in War Memorial Stadium. Why did you choose Wyoming, Marcus? What was it about? Why an African American from inner city Minneapolis would choose to come to Laramie, Wyoming? And what was your experience like? And he went on and on and on about what the University of Wyoming had done for him and why he chose Wyoming and how he embraced Wyoming. And he embraced the toughness. We talked to Coach Roach. Spent a lot of time with Coach Roach. Went up and spent a lot of time with Joe Tiller. So when you start to gather this theme of what kind of players that we want to have, there was a common theme there. So that left a motivation for us as a coaching staff to find the Wyoming profile. Find that guy. Find that guy that would give his left leg to play for the brown and gold. And a couple of things we noticed right off was the composition of our football team. We hardly had any players from the state of Wyoming on our football team. I have a locker room of 120, and I could count on one hand the number of players that were from our state. So we knew that we needed to have more representation from this state. We also knew this state is sparsely populated. There's not a lot of football players in the state, so we knew we had to develop these guys. And so we embarked on developing this profile. And what we found, the profile was going to have a young man that would have a laser-like focus on two attributes. One, the first thing, to get a meaningful degree from a great land-grant research institution, the University of Wyoming. It's going to be really important for them to get a meaningful degree. And notice a meaningful degree, that doesn't mean all the same. We've got a great engineering school, we've got a great education school, all kinds of different opportunities. And a meaningful degree is going to mean different things to different young men. And we knew we were going to be able to attract young men that wanted to get a great degree in engineering. Some of the things that Senator Nicholas has been able to help with. A huge engineering program, world-class stuff. We also knew we'd be recruiting that young man who would be a first family member to ever go to college, who'd been told all his life, you can't make it. You won't succeed in college. You have no business going to college. And so we knew that we were going to find that young man that wanted to get a meaningful degree where the University of Wyoming would truly make a difference. So that was the first thing, get a meaningful degree. The second thing is a guy that would have a laser-like focus to win the Mountain West Conference Championship. Those two things. That's it. The guy that's looking for the beach, don't want him, don't need him. The guy that's looking for all kinds of the crazy nightlife and everything else, not interested. Get a meaningful degree and win the Mountain West Conference Championship. So that's the guy we were going to speak to. So it was interesting. It was during that time there was all kinds of discussion I heard around the state about Wyoming couldn't make it in Division I athletics. Potentially needed to reclassify, drop down to Division II. I traveled over to Cheyenne, met our governor. It was an interesting day. So I walked in and sat down with Governor Meade, and I said, well, Governor Meade, I'm hearing some talk about us reclassifying to Division II. I'll never forget. Those steely blue eyes turned and pierced right towards me. And that rancher's jaw locked in, and he said, that is not the Wyoming way. We will never go back in anything. And he looked at me and he said, Coach, I know this, all across the state, when the Cowboys win, people feel good about themselves. We can attest to our women's basketball team filling up the AA. Or what occurred out in Las Vegas, where all kinds of people across our state wore their Wyoming sweatshirts and felt great about themselves. And Coach, he said, we're tired of being average in football. What do we need to be great? What do we need? He goes, let me know. And I knew as I looked, for us to build greatness, we would need to develop football players. And so, combining the Wyoming profile with the governor's commitment to saying, Coach, we're tired of being average, that spurred us on.